And it's an honor to have this wonderful opportunity to have like a training session for teachers of this kind. Not frequently do we have the chance to have like teachers like Katie and programs like this one, 4 whole days, fully sponsored by Fulbright, yes, and well, it's really an honor, and I'm so glad that not only you here from the city, but also so many teachers from the, let's say, inner province are having the chance to do this online, yes. That's the reason why we don't have so many people here sitting today, because we had the opportunity to let them know, okay, don't worry, you don't need to come for 4 whole days, pay for transportation, accommodation, food, and everything. So they were so happy to have that chance. And well, I'll tell you a little bit about how this came to be. Last year, we were called by Fulbright to submit proposals, yes, all across the country, to, let's say, implement a project that would match the profile of an award that Fulbright grants in the United States to distinguished teachers, right? So once they had found the teacher, yes, the award-winning teacher, Fulbright chose the proposals, yes, from all the proposals that were submitted, and well, Salta and Tucumán were the only 2 provinces that were chosen. So that's why it's an honor, a privilege to have been part of this. And well, I'm so happy that you can take advantage of it, yes. Let me tell you a little about Katie Hammer, yes. Katie Hammer, as I said before, was the recipient of the Fulbright Dust, which is an award that Fulbright gives to distinguished teachers. It's Distinguished Award short-term, right, program, yes? And what the program does is it sends a teacher from the United States to a host country to implement the project that the country had submitted, right? Yes. And last year, when we were called to submit the proposal, and the reason why this program is aimed at primary school teachers is because we thought, okay, who can be the beneficiaries of this? And we were thinking of primary school teachers and, let's say, the extension of the coverage of primary school from 1st grade all the way through 7th grade, which I know is not like 100% coverage right now, but hopefully we will have it someday, who knows, in this administration or other administrations to come, yes? Well, I'll tell you a little about Katie's background, yes? So Katie has extensive teaching experience, particularly in the field of English as a foreign language. And here are some of the most relevant aspects of her background, yes? Well, first of all, in terms of international teaching experience, Catherine taught English at Chitralada Palace School in Bangkok, Thailand. She worked with students aged 3, 4, and 6, focusing on reading, writing, and speaking activities. This role also involved adapting to local customs and dealing with the aftermath of the tsunami, if you remember. Yes, okay. So obviously she survived, yes, so that's why she's here today, yes, right, okay. And
not in spirit.
That, yes, showcases her adaptability and resilience in a foreign teaching environment, yes. Currently, Katie works in a dual language program, yes. She has significant experience in various bilingual education settings, including early transition programs and Gomez dual language programs, yes. Her work in these programs involves both one-way and two-way learning in English and Spanish, right? So highlighting her ability to handle diverse linguistic and cultural classroom settings. She employs project-based learning strategies to facilitate cross-curricular connections, and this approach, as you know, helps students excel academically by engaging them in hands-on relevant projects that integrate multiple subjects, and that's also what she's going to do here with you today, offering you hands-on activities. In terms of professional development and leadership, as a leader on her campus, Catherine spearheads the dual language bilingual program, planning lessons and guiding other teachers. She also participates in professional development through programs like the Fulbright Distinguished Awards in Teaching, which is why she is here today, which enables her to bring global perspectives and innovative strategies back to her students and colleagues. And cultural immersion and language acquisition. Catherine has participated in summer language immersion programs in Spain, sponsored by the Embassy of Spain. These programs included both intensive language classes and cultural immersion activities, further enhancing her Spanish language skills, which is like she's trying to practice here, yes, with us. Well, not with us precisely, no? But with the with the taxi drivers, the hotel people, yes, okay, and in social settings, yes, and cultural understanding. And finally, in terms of community engagement, she volunteers with Latino literacy programs, conducting seminars to help parents understand the benefits of bilingualism and providing strategies for supporting their children's literacy at home, because as you may know, Katie is from Texas, and it's a state with a lot of like Mexicans, yes, and so language like Spanish and English coexist in many schools, yes. That's why there are many schools with these dual programs where children like learn the two languages simultaneously, yes. So, and before like passing on the baton to her, yes, I would like to thank everyone who made this possible, yes, the Ministry of Education, the Secretary of Professional Development, Instituto de Idiomas, for like having me use all the people yes, that work there, yes. Thank you, Chris, thank you, Julian, and the people from Políticas Socioeducativas, yes, who are helping us with the, let's say, registration and other things that have made this possible, okay? So, without further ado, I give you Catherine. So, Catherine, the floor is yours.
So I'm gonna tell you, I'm not used to wearing a mic. I am usually very loud. So if I touch like this, sometimes I'm just not used to it. I know that since we are streaming, I have to wear it. So, like she said, I am at home in Texas, and at our school, we have a dual language program, which is one of the most phenomenal things for our school to have, because we're a smaller district. But it's phenomenal because there's so many people and parents there who are supportive of it. And as she said, we have both one way and two ways. So what that means is that we have students who their native language is Spanish and they're learning in Spanish and English. But we also have students who their native language is English, and they are also learning in the same realm with the students who are speaking Spanish. So I teach third grade at home, and all of those students are learning both English and Spanish simultaneously in our grade level. So I'm really, really excited to be here, and I feel so honored that you have come to listen to what I have to say. I hope that even if a little bit of it is helpful for you, then, that will make my day. Previously, I was told I speak a little fast, so I'm going to try not to speak as quickly. Sometimes I get very excited and I speak faster. So, what we're going to start with, of course, is throughout this week, we're going to be focusing on the English language and focusing on different aspects of the language. Tonight, we're going to start with differences of the Spanish and the English and how we kind of use those phonics in English to put them together. And then we'll continue throughout the week with our listening skills, our reading our speaking skills, and then our reading and writing skills. And then finally, on the last night, we will focus on how to create that cross-cultural content, as well as kind of looking at your schedules and seeing how you can fit all of these many things into a small amount of time, because I know you have class periods or class times that are short or shorter. So something about Texas that's a little different, and you'll hear me kind of reference it, is that sometimes I say in your classroom, I know that you have to move from class to class. In Texas, we don't. So the students actually are in our classroom and then they move from place to place. I wish you had that opportunity here. I do. But I know that sometimes, hopefully maybe in the future, that will be something they can look into. But for the moment, some of the things that I have to share with you, I've tried to make them where they are conducive so that you could easily take them from place to place. And what we will practice here during this week, Cecilia has the magic stick. She has a jump drive or an extensive drive that will have all of the resources on it. So don't worry, you will get them along with this presentation. Speaking of that, yeah. Okay. Okay, so just a little bit about myself, which we've actually kind of gone through. I've worked in dual language for 20 years. I can't hardly realize that it's been that long. But that's one thing about the love of teaching, that it kind of time flies sometimes. I love to explore other places. I've had the privilege to work in Thailand, and I've studied in Spain. I visited Germany and Italy. My mom is Italian, and so in England and some other places. I love music, which you'll find out because we will be singing at one point or another here in here. I love art. I love wine. So it's very good that I came to Argentina. Exactly, right? So I also love the outdoors, and I'm an avid camper and kayaker at home. So kayaker, that's my husband in the middle, and behind him, that's our canoe. There's a place that we go. So the place that I'm from in Texas, it's in East Texas. So the capital of Texas is Austin, but we are actually 6.5 hours away from Austin. So Texas is huge. It's very, very big. We're up towards the northeastern section of it. So as you can see, and behind, I know it's kind of hard, but behind these pictures, there's these very tall trees, both here and here. Those are the piney woods, and they're pine trees. And that's what we call our region that I live in, is the piney woods. So I know this doesn't have anything to do with that, but some other people were asking, where in Texas, because it's so big, do you live? And so I live in the very green part of Texas. There's a desert part. Live there. Yeah. And there's, of course, the beaches and things. But I am definitely family, by the way, is very important. That is my mom on the left. And in fact, my mom and my husband, once I finish the project, they are going to come to Argentina and spend some time here in Salta and Buenos Aires. So I'm very excited about that as well, to show them my new favorite place. I am thrilled to be here and to collaborate with you. And so I hope that you will find some of the things that I share useful, or even if they're not as useful as you would hope, but maybe find a way to make them useful for yourselves. So and there will be a lot. Okay, so my educational philosophy, honestly, it sums it up with those two words, to be brave. I love languages and learning them. I believe that language is a part of who you are. It's a part of your cultural heritage. And where I come from in Texas, a lot of times the parents who have Spanish speakers, sometimes we actually have to remind them of that because they want their students, they want their children to learn English, but they forget about holding on to that native language that makes them their own, that makes them able to talk to their abuelas, you know, and learn about their family generational stories. And so we always tell them that it's not just about learning English, but it's about holding on to who you are as well. And especially because we want to be a global society. And so we always tell them about it's part of who you are, it's your culture. Learning is a process of growth. It's not a process of perfection. Pass or fail are not real world. So especially in a language class, we always tell our students that we want them to try their best, which we do. We want them to feel confident and feel comfortable in what they're doing in the classroom. But a lot of times, sometimes even parents, they will get stuck on, are my students passing as my passing, or are they not doing so well? And so within language classes, I like to kind of inform the parents that it's not about whether they're passing or getting a grade of an A or a B. It's about what are they learning and how are they growing? Because in a language learning situation, it's a lot different than going into a core subject like math and where it's all specific skills. Language is growth, and it takes time for that growth to occur and to happen. So that is one of the reasons why we talk about how process of growth, not just in a process, but not perfection, because we'll get there. Mistakes are to be learned from. Sometimes going out your comfort zone leads to the most amazing experiences. And then, of course, learning is not just a set and get, and it's movement that helps memory. Hopefully within these sessions, we may do some more sitting than what I would normally do in the classroom, but I'm hoping that we'll do some movement as well through the tables, and it'll help you kind of get some of that information and help stick it into your memory. So we've already talked about that. Okay, we're gonna see if this will. Okay, so I'm gonna play this video. This is actually one of my favorite videos about the benefits of being bilingual. If you ever wanna look up these videos, they have them, they're called TED Talks, TED, and then Talks. They have ones that you may be able to use with your students, but they also have some professional development ones. And then they also have some that are just there to kind of motivate you, because sometimes we get up in the morning and we don't always want to go teach a whole lot of students. So they give you some motivators as well. But this is one of my favorites of bilingual, and in the beginning of the school year, we actually send this out to our parents and our students. And we play it for our district actually plays it for our whole school, so.
Bella, would it be awesome if we could speak all the different languages in the world?
Sí, José, sería muy divertido. Did you know there are over 6,500 spoken languages in the world today? El idioma más popular en el mundo es Mandarin Chinese. There are over 1 billion people that speak it.
En serio? Let's ask our audience. Raise your hand if you speak more than one language. Amigos, un estudio mostró que los 5 primeros idiomas hablados en el mundo son
Mandarin Chinese,
English,
Hindustani,
español,
and Arabic. Amigos, ¿saben cuáles son los beneficios de ser multilingüe?
¿Qué es multilingüe? Is that the type of superpower?
Sí, ser multilingüe te da la habilidad de hablar más de un idioma. The benefits of speaking more than one language are
Boost brain power. Expande mi mente y mi inteligencia.
mejora la memoria, gives me the ability to remember longer,
Enhances the ability to multitask. Me da la ventaja de hacer más cosas a la vez.
mantiene mi mente en buenas condiciones por más tiempo, which is the combination of my intelligence and memory lasting longer as I get older.
Me abre las puertas a otras culturas, which provides me the ability to learn and understand different traditions and cultures.
Enhances decision making. Tomo mejores decisiones.
Mejora mi primer idioma. By learning a second or third language, I become more proficient speaking my first language. We all have different ways of learning.
Okay, I can pretty much tell you and sum up what's going to happen next. Ooh. Okay. Okay. So one of the reasons that we show that video to our students, and our school actually shows it to all of the students and all the when we have a family night, is because I think that sometimes when outside people learn or come to you as they learn a language or they're wanting to learn about a language, sometimes people have misconceptions that people who are trying to learn another language are like the language class is like a rudimentary language class, like it's not an enrichment class. And so we want to show people that no, learning in more than one language is very beneficial to you as a person and to you as to your students. And that is something that at our school district, and even for myself, that I am very passionate about. Because I do think that knowing more than one language is very beneficial, not only health-wise, but intelligence-wise, and to be able to just be that global citizen that we want our students and ourselves to be. So I am very passionate about that. And that's one of the reasons why we do share that video, because sometimes where I'm from, a lot of English is spoken, and they always sometimes forget that, nope, it's not just English, it's also Spanish as well. But here today, I know our focus is learning and English learning, and how are we going to take the students and rise and help them grow to where they need to be. But I do want to say that is one of my passions, is that it's very important to hold on to every language that you speak. So what we're going to do right now, before we continue in to some of the activities and some of the strategies that we're going to share with, I would like you to think about what are some of your strengths and your weaknesses when you're teaching in English? And I know some of you brought some notebooks to write in. May I borrow this? They also gave this page to you. So I'll talk about this page, but you are more than welcome to use in the front. There's reflections, and then also in the back, there is where it says differences between English and Spanish towards the back. And it actually has that question, some of your strengths and weaknesses teaching in English. So you're more than welcome in your notebooks and write on your pages. But if you did, or if you need to, then so there on this page, this space here as well. So we're just going to do that for I'm just going to do about 7 minutes. I think I'm going to probably use my watch because it's not wanting to load on the screen. So it's okay if you'd like to talk out at your tables, but I want you to think about personally, what do you think some of your weaknesses and strengths are? Because as we share some of those, that'll help not only myself, but it'll help us talk about what direction that we want to go into as we're learning the strategies. So, so go ahead and start writing, and then we're going to share a little. I'll just set my watch. No. Okay, about 2 more minutes. Okay, 1 more minute. Okay, so I would like one person at each table to share one of their strengths and one of their weaknesses. If when that person shares, you have written something to it, then I would like you to put a small check next to it. So this is a strategy that we use with our students when we share and we're checking work, because a lot of times students will like to know that, oh, I'm on the right track. I said the same thing that they said. So when we share, I know you may not enjoy it, but I would like you to stand and share. When we stand and share, we actually stand by two people. That does not mean both people need to share. So the reason that we stand, and the reason that we stand 2 by 2, is in our language classes, sometimes students, we want them to kind of step out of that comfort zone. And in order to do that, they need to be able to speak to an audience. They need to be able to project themselves, their voice, but they also will feel nervous standing on their own. So we say you have to stand 2 by 2, and then sometimes we'll even do a strategy that's called 2 by 2 is 4. And what that means is 2 will stand and share, and then we will clap 1, 2, 3, 4 times for them, and then they will sit, and then a new group will stand and share. So do I have anyone who would like to volunteer before I voluntold you? My husband's favorite word. I voluntold him to do the dishes. So, okay. I'm going to start with the red table. They're looking at me like, oh, yes, thank you. So 2 people do not have to share, but if one would share one of your weaknesses and one of your strengths of teaching English for everyone, and stand to do it, please. I know. It's okay, I promise. Okay. But will you stand with her as well? Yeah. Go ahead. Either. You can either. Yes.
Probably I'm not doing everything, but if you think about your special students in a way, you are actually trying to reach them with something. So in the end, it's not a disadvantage, it's an advantage to try and think about a weakness. I don't know if it's related to teaching English, but I think it's creative.
Right? Everybody. Okay, so we're going to round of applause, but we're going to do 4 times, right? So one of the reasons we do often 2 by 2 by 4 is because it actually forces the students to pay attention to detail and what they're doing. Because you're going to find out in a few moments. Sometimes it's very hard to only clap 4 times, but it helps kind of initiate that part of your brain that's like, okay, focus on what's happening. Okay, our blue table, someone will share a strength and a weakness. Like, Okay, thank you. I know that sometimes they are not having fun with me. I mean, out of my game for fun. But sometimes I think it's someone is getting the fun of my students, and sometimes but I get frustrated. All right, so we're gonna have 4 times. So, good job. See, it's hard. Okay, yellow table. Oh, you have no time. She's like, I have no voice. Oh, yes. I'm sorry. I forgot. Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot we're streaming. Oh, lo siento. Oh. Sorry.
I like playing game to practice what the students are learning as a strength. And as a weakness, I would like to use more technological devices in class.
Okay, so clap 4 times. Lo siento, sorry. Like I said, I forgot we were streaming, so you're all by yourself. I'm so sorry.
Okay.
Here.
Maybe one of my
I know.
weakness, it's my lack of control of timing. Perhaps I don't take into account that there are kids who write it down very slowly. And strength, I really enjoy use different resources like technology, like my partner. So,
Oh, okay, good. And 4 times. Okay. And this table. Who's going to be famous for a moment? Pass. Pass the mic. Pass it. For this, it won't pick our voice though.
Okay. Yeah, thanks. Okay. Well, I didn't realize about the camera. Well, talking about my strength, I think that I am a very positive person. So I teach my students to see the bright side of life. This is my philosophy, and I think that this is something really important for them too. But the weaknesses could be probably that I am also strict. So I push them to be the best ones. So sometimes I am the witch. That's yeah, the witch.
The good witch. Glinda the good witch. All right, 4 times touch. I forgot we had to use the mic. That was my bad. Okay. Those were very good. And thank you so much for sharing, by the way. I know that's your favorite thing to do in any training, even myself. All right. I know that's how I feel. So, so we're going to talk the differences and the similarities between Spanish. Some of these you may know, but of course our similarities are the use of the Roman alphabet in both allows for a phonemic and phonological awareness foundation. Now we know, which we'll be discussing, that English phonics and Spanish phonics, there are a lot of complexities in English phonics, but the fact that they have that Roman kind of alphabet allows them to both to use kind of the same sounding functions. That except for some word order expectations, sentences in both languages have the same basic structure. So even though, for example, we reverse our adjectives when we're speaking in Spanish versus English, the structure itself is similar. There's both subjects and predicates of the sentence structure. The 30% to 40% of words in English have a related word in Spanish, and those are the words we know as cognates. Cognates help the transfer from one language to another, which we will actually be discussing those as well this week. Cognates are one of my favorite ways to motivate the students in their language because they suddenly realize that with their home native language, they can make this connection to English that they didn't even realize was there before. For example, información is information. Or in my case, at my school, they're like, tacos, our tacos, and they're excited, or our tamales, yeah. So, but it's always very exciting to see their eyes light up when they make those connections and they realize that the students realize they know more than they thought they did. So, and that helps give them that confidence boost. Learning to read and write uses the same basic process: phonemic awareness, decoding, fluency, comprehension, and writing mechanics. And though the decoding may be slightly different, like in Spanish, of course, we say sílabas, like ma, me, mi, mo, mu. But of course, in English, there's still syllables, but they tend to separate the spelling by sonidos, like sounds. You know, like if we say cat, we're not like cat, it's like at. So those are, of course, some slight differences as well. Okay. Okay. So a few differences, which granted, this is not all of them, but this is a few. Some of the differences between English and Spanish are their statement and question sentence patterns. And we will actually talk about that as well. So especially the question sentence patterns. When my English students are learning Spanish, it always surprises them of the way that a question is formed in English versus Spanish. Because in English, we always have those who, did what, when, where, why. But in Spanish, we don't always have to have that. Like if we're saying, vamos al cine, you know, are you going to the theater? Are you going to the movies? You don't always have to put, you know, that are part, like the ARE. Like if I were to write it in English, I'd say, are you going to the movies? So there's a lot more word verbiage in English questions than there would be in Spanish. In English, negation is very complex compared to Spanish, because if you want to negate words in English, you have to use a variety of prefixes for them, like non, un, dis, in, and many other critical negative words. Even though we have prefixes that are similar and they're easy, they can transfer to help one language to the other language, English negations are still more complex. In English, we don't consider gender before using articles. A, an, and the are applicable in every gender, but in Spanish, gender should be considered before using the article. So of course, you know, we have el gato, or which we don't do that. We don't do that when we're speaking in English. Arrangements, of course, of adjectives, which we talked about earlier, and nouns differ in English and Spanish, because usually our adjectives come before in English and of course after in Spanish. Okay, we're not going to go through all of these, but I guess to prove the point that English is complex, these are some of this is some of the English sounds or diphthongs and phonemes and digraphs that Spanish does not have. So fun to teach English. And then we are going to go through some. Okay, just a few phonics rules. Now, some of the rules that we'll hear in a few moments that are on here, we are not going to read through every single one of them, but I did place them on here, and I'll show you because they are in patterns of posters, and some of them have poems on them that sometimes as you are teaching the students the different diphthongs and the sounds that they will be useful to you to help them remember what goes where in the English. And I'll show you that once in a few moments. What we're going to do now is, hopefully it will play, but what we will do is they're going to share with us some of those diphthongs that are a little more confusing, like ow and ow, and how they are the same sound, but they're different combined letters. So we're just going to listen to a few.
Hey, I'm Allison from Learning at the Primary Pond. I'm a literacy specialist, and in this video, I'm going to explain what diphthongs are, as well as give you some ideas and how-tos for teaching them. If you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, make sure to hit the subscribe button and then also hit the little bell so that you're notified every time I post a brand new video about teaching literacy in K2. Okay, so diphthongs. I really don't like that word, by the way. I think an easier way of talking about diphthongs is to think of them as gliding vowels. So in a diphthong, the sound kind of begins as one vowel sound and then it moves to another vowel sound. These are some common diphthongs. OW, OU, OW as in ow, like in cow. OU, like in the word loud, ow, ow. Aw, aw, aw as in claw. Aw as in laundry. Oi, boil. Oi, enjoy. So these are all diphthongs. We're going to talk about OO. Technically, I don't believe OO is a diphthong, but I usually like to teach them in the same unit. In From Sounds to Spelling, my phonics program, we cover all the diphthongs, and then we also talk about the two sounds of OO. So we will talk about that as well. But diphthongs, right? These can occur at the beginning of a word, like in the word out. They can occur in the middle of a word, like in the word caught. And they can also occur at the end of a word, like in the word enjoy. Okay? So diphthongs, gliding vowels. If you want to know what I mean by when I say gliding vowel, just say ow and notice how your mouth changes shape. Ow, right? Starts as one shape and then it moves to another. So gliding vowels. The way that I teach diphthongs is by working on diphthongs that make the same sound in the same week. So for example, in the last unit of my phonics program, From Sounds to Spelling, we work on OW, and then we work on OU, ow, in the same week. If you do something similar, if you teach diphthongs that make the same sound in the same week, would you just let me know yes in the comments? Curious if other people do that as well. So again, in the program, we start with ow and ow, and with ow, the kids will already have learned that OW can make the long O sound, like in the word blow. So they know that it can make the long O sound, but the ow sound is something that is probably new to them, or we study it in more depth. We start with ow, and a fun thing you can do is like incorporate some little Band-Aid activities like ow. So in this one, it's a combination vocabulary and phonics activity where like there's little clues. So it says, this is a farm animal that gives us milk. Some have black and white spots. So like kids have to cut out the letters down here and they have to figure out that it's cow and then make the word cow. So Band-Aids, super fun.
Going. So these are some of the phonics, the posters that I'm going to share that will be on the presentation. Like I said, we could spend so much time on just simply phonics of English because of all of the complexities of them, but who really wants to do that? So I did share them in the presentation with you so that you will have them if you would like to use them within your classes. And then we are actually going to put some into and we're going to do an activity. So some of these, this is what I was telling you before about sometimes we'll put a rhyme to some of the patterns of them. So for example, the K, the I, and the E, what does it start with? And they give us the kid with the key likes kites. K comes before I or E. C becomes before the other three. A, O, and U. You C before consonants too. So one of the strategies that you can do within your room is find ways to incorporate songs and chants, which I heard a lot of you do. Technology, of course, if you have that, but if not, that's okay. And oddly enough, the more outrageous it is, kind of the sillier it is, a lot of students will actually remember it better. And even the students who are older will remember it because they'll feel like they're being a little kid again. So one of the ways that we share the KIE, so the kids with the key like kites, is that we add movements to that one. So I would like everyone to stand. I think if we can, hopefully we won't block the cameras. So if you see a camera near you, just move over a little bit. So what we're going to do is we're going to create the symbol, the hand symbol of the letter K in American Sign Language. So you're going to make the number 2, and then you're going to take your thumb and you're going to place it right in between the number 2. And that is the letter K in American Sign Language, which we'll actually learn a few more letters as well. Okay, we're also going to use the letter I, which is very similar. It's just your pinky straight to the ceiling. And then the letter E, which is almost like an E itself. You're going to take your fingers and you're going to fold them down. And then your thumb, you're going to fold it over, and that's going to create the E. So it looks like an E. So we have K, I, E. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to do this chant. The K comes before I or E. So I'm going to show you how we would do this in our classroom to help our students remember it. So we'd say K comes before, so you're going to make it kind of hop in front of towards you, to the left of you. I and E, so you're going to make your I and your E before the other 3. So you're going to show the 3. And then we're going to do more sign language. A, so you're making a fist with your thumb to the top. O, and U. Use C in consonants 2. Okay? Okay, so we're going to do that one more time. You can sit down now, but we're also going to do that as we sit. So we're going to start with the K. So we're going to say K comes before I and E. C comes before the other 3. Good job. A, O, and U. Use C in the consonants 2. Good job. So one of the reasons that we do that is as you do the poems, as you do movements with the poems, they don't have to be something exaggerated and big. And a lot of times when you teach those to students, and it honestly can be you can make up what you would like. But with those, you'll sometimes, when the students are writing at our school, you'll see them and they'll be like, K comes before. And I'm thinking, that's fine, do that, because they're remembering it and they're trying to put it into their memory and they're showing it. So it's really entertaining to watch them when they're trying to spell words and you see them soon doing that. Okay, so we're actually going to do an activity using oi and oi. So I'm going to keep this up here and I'm going to show you 2 types of activities that we're going to do. One will be in a moment at your tables, and then the second will be on the screen. So I think this is one of the reasons why English is so complex, because I know so many of my students are like, why is it oi and oi, but one is oi and one is oy? And they're like, I just don't understand. So in that sense, we have to explicitly teach our phonics. And sometimes that can be a little boring. And so we try to find ways to incorporate that phonics learning and that explicit teaching into our lessons, like we just did, through our movements, through songs, through poems with our younger students. And then as the students get older, we try to use it through more longer stories or paragraphs, because you don't want to be a 7th grade student going, oh, here's my simple poem. Let me find the words in here. We want them to challenge themselves. Because a lot of the times the older primary students, if they're reluctant to learn, it's because they think, I'm bored, I've already done this, I know this. Oh, miss, this is like me being a baby, you're treating me like a baby. And phonics is very difficult, and it takes a little bit of time to internalize it. So that's why tonight we're gonna see two different manners of activities so that you can use them throughout the age levels that you guys have. By the way, side note, so I said earlier, my family is from Ohio, so you will hear me say you guys, it means everybody, but I'm also from Texas, so y'all might come out of my mouth, it also means you all, so just saying. I've tried to stop doing that, but I can't, it just doesn't work, okay. It's a habit. So OI, if the sound comes in the middle of a word, use OI. If the sound comes at the end of a word, use OY. So to help you remember, like I said, a lot of people use different ways, whether it's through a poem, whether it's through actions or a chant. And in this case, they used the sentence of destroy the, because you can see, of course, the OI comes at the end and the OI comes in the middle. So what we are going to do now is and then some of you may actually need to move to another table. Okay. Yes, I will show you what. So show me which one? Actually, you can give them the whole thing. So what you are going to find inside of the envelope, and by the way, all of the things in the envelope we will get to sooner or later throughout this week. So I know there's a lot of goodies inside. But what you are going to do is you are going to find the page that has OI diagraph, roll and write mat. And then there's also a die inside of your, oh, that's good, actually. That's good that we have extra. There's a dice inside of your bag. So you will find the dice and oh yeah. This was one of the ones that, yeah. Because I don't know if I got everything on there that I wanted. Sure. Okay. Okay. So this is what happened last time too. People were like, ooh, look at these things in here. And I said, I know, don't worry, you'll get them. So what we're going to do right now is on the mat that you have, the OI diagraph roll and read mat, there actually is something on the back of it. So if you're looking through the things and you think, I can't find it, then look on the back, because I believe on the back, there's I can't remember. It's another phonics game. So this game, what you're gonna do is, I know that we're gonna be sitting a lot and listening a lot, but sometimes it's good to play a game, no matter what the age is, to kind of understand how your students feel, but also for you to get ideas on ways to extend the game. So this one is actually, I would say, pretty simple. As you roll the dice, you're going to take turns at your table, and whatever number, when you roll, that dice lands on, then you will read the list of words. Now, for tonight, that's all we're going to do. But I can tell you that one of the ways you can extend this activity for your students as they get older is we've done where you roll the dice, the word that you say, then of course you have to make a sentence with that word. We've also done alphabetical order of the line. So as you notice, there's 5 words on a line. So sometimes with our students, we have said, okay, your tables, everybody rolls at the same time. And the table group, whatever their number lands on, that table group has to be the first to put their words in ABC order. And then we have buttons on our table or on our spaces, and they hit the button when they're the first. And they're like, oh, we're first. And they're so excited. So that's a way that you can extend this. Tonight, what we're going to do is you're simply going to take turns just for a few moments, because I know it won't take that long. And you'll roll the dice, and then you'll read out the words on the line, and then you will choose one word to sentence with. So I'm going to give you just a few moments, probably maybe about 2. So it's going to be speed round of practicing this, and then we'll discuss how we're going to extend it again. So go ahead, try it out. So just roll the dice. Anybody can start, and then you'll read. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And you have to make a sentence. I know. Yeah. Say a sentence. And that oi sound is one of those harder sounds. Yeah, good. The foil is, well, there's many actually. So foil is like aluminum foil, pero también you can say like, I foiled my opponent. And then in fencing, in fencing, the sword is foil. Yeah. So that's another way you could extend that, is by sharing with your older students that all of those wonderful multi-meaning words. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do, I know we haven't completely finished the game. It is. Loin is like your leg, like leg muscles. A loin, part of your leg, or so like pork loin, or is like, we have pork shoulders that we like on a cerdo, when we're eating like carne, or pork is completely different, but that loin is that muscular area near their thigh. It's a loin. Yep. Yeah. 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 So as you are finishing the game, a lot of things have come up about the verbs and the words of this. It is very useful to use because there's a lot of multiple meanings of different words. So now we're going to take it and we're going to use it for what we would do with higher elementary or higher primary students. So as we said, the map itself, the game itself, it leads itself into a lot of different activities that you can use for your students, whether it's organizing the words in alphabetical order, whether it is taking the words that have multiple meanings or even words that you may not be as familiar with, because they are used in not more academic settings, but sometimes some of those words are used in older stories like folk tales and myths and things, and so they're a little older. So the next thing we are going to do is you will need a piece of paper for this and a pen or a pencil to write with. You can, like I said, you can use the notes that I gave you. You're more than welcome to use the space near it or your notebook. But this is how we would extend it to our higher primary students. So when we work with words and phonemic awareness, yes, it needs to be explicitly taught, which means that, okay, you do need to tell them here's how the rule works, but it doesn't mean anything when it's all by itself, because the reason we know and learn phonics and phonemic awareness is to help our reading skills. So in order to make it more meaningful to the students, we have to show them how and where they're going to use this. So of course, later on in their writing, they'll use this. In their spelling, they will use this. But this is a good example of what they would see when we're trying to incorporate it into their reading. So the story is called The Lost Toy. And I'm going to read through it just so that everyone can hear and see it. But what you will do after I've read through it is I will give you a few moments, and I want you to be a word detective. So we always tell our students to get out your magnifying glass. So you have to take your magnifying glass and get it out. And sometimes our students will even do that. They'll be like this to pretend that they have their magnifying glass. We've even had some companies have been nice and given us some magnifying glasses, and we'll actually use them. So you could always ask around if that works. I don't know if that happens here, but you could try. So what you will do after I've read through it is you are going to be the detective, and you are going to look and write down those OI and OY words that you see in the passage and see in the story. So I'm going to start with the lost toy. Dad was changing the oil in his car when his daughter Joy ran into the garage. Dad, exclaimed Joy in a loud voice, I lost my favorite toy rabbit. Boing. Don't worry, said Dad. We can find her. Where did you last have her? I was counting my money, said Joy. I wonder if Boing got mixed in with the coins. Dad searched through the coins, but there was no sign of Boing. Where else have you been playing? Asked Dad. Well, I was digging outside in the soil, said Joy. They walked outside. Can you show me where you were playing? Said Dad. Joy pointed, but they still could not see Boing. Suddenly, there was a loud oink. It was coming from the pig pen. There's something wrong with Buddy, shouted Joy, and she ran over to the pen. Dad joined Joy next to the pig pen, and they peered in. They could see a pair of bunny ears peeking out from underneath Buddy. Oh, Buddy, you silly boy, shouted Joy. You are sitting on my favorite toy. Dad rescued Boing from underneath Buddy. She was a little bit muddy, but not destroyed. Joy decided to wash her before bedtime. Now she could enjoy snuggling with her favorite toy again. So what I'd like you to do now is go through and find those OYOI words and just write them down. Go ahead and do that. So be a detective and hunt down those OI and OY words. Okay, I'm gonna give you 30 more seconds. It's okay if you don't find them all. Okay, so I know some of you are still hinting and looking, and there's a lot of good happening at your tables. So one of the strategies that we use with our students when we have something like this, where we're trying to just be a word detective, is we actually break it up and to see if they are paying attention to details, we will break it up this way. Usually we'll do paragraphs, but there's a lot of lines. So what we're going to do is we're going to start at dad, and we're going to stop here at coins. And so as you look, because I know that there are some OI and OY words, I want you to tell me how many there are using your fingers. So between dad and coins, how many OI and OY words together? And then you're going to show me. So for example, let's just say there were 2. Then you'll show me 2. If there's 5, you're going to show me 5. So between dad and coins. Yeah, and every time you see, even if it's the same word, every time you see it, yes. Yeah. So how many are there? Yep. So starting in the first line, what 2 words are there? Joy and oil. And then in the second line, are there any? Joy and bowling and toy. Yes, and voice. And then what about in this last sentence here? How many are there? Yep. What is the one that's in? Well, 2. Joy and boing. Yep. And there's one more. Coins. Yes. And so we would continue doing that. Now, with our students, we may write, we may highlight. Sometimes we will make it very big on the wall, and we have those. I'm not sure how to explain them, but they're very sticky ball things. They like have hands on them, and you can actually find them usually in like a toy store or sometimes at fairs, but they're very, very sticky. And so what they do is the students will take it and will say, find, an OI word, and they'll throw it and it'll stick to the board and it'll stick to the word. And it's very sticky. It's kind of like slime. Yeah. Sometimes they call them slime hands. They're very stretchy and you can like slap it on there. So we do that. We also use fly swatters, and they swat the word. So it's another way. So we try to keep them engaged. And of course we say, do not swat each other. Because that's the next thing. They're like, I know, right? Yeah. Okay, we're gonna skip over that. I know. Okay, so the next part of this that we're gonna talk about, besides, as we said before, our chant, our poems, making it active, is very important for our language learners. So we're gonna talk about the total physical response, which is TPR. So I'm going to have her, I can explain it, but you've listened to me a lot. So I am going to play the video, and then we're going to do some activities using our total physical response today that hopefully you can take back to your students.
Hello teachers, and welcome to this video on how to use TPR in the classroom. Now in this video, we will discuss 3 things. Number 1, what is TPR? Number 2, why is it important? And number 3, how can we use it? Okay, so first off, what is TPR? TPR stands for Total Physical Response. The process actually mimics the way that infants learn their first language. The purpose of TPR is to create a brain link between speech and movement or action. So let's look at one example of how we can observe or use TPR. Let's look at this sentence as an example. The little bunny looked for his mom and dad. He was very sad. TPR. The little bunny looked for his mom and dad. He was very sad. Did you see how I acted out the words little, bunny, looked, and sad? This is TPR, and it's something that you've probably been using without realizing it. So that brings us to our next question. Why is TPR important? Well, we have to remember that our student does not understand every single word that we say. So by using TPR, we help them understand things that they've never even heard before. To help emphasize the importance and the effectiveness of TPR, watch the following example in another language. Hola, me llamo Wendy. Yo tengo 2 ojos, 2 orejas, una boca y una nariz. Did you have any idea of what I just said? Well, if you don't speak Spanish, probably not. Now let's watch it again, but this time with TPR. Hola, yo soy Wendy. Yo tengo 2 orejas, 2 ojos, una nariz y una boca. How about now? Even though you don't understand the language, you probably understood what I just said. My name is Wendy, I have 2 ears, I have 2 eyes, 1 mouth, and 1 nose. See how effective TPR can be? Now, TPR is super important to engage younger learners. They will not be engaged if you just sit at the camera and talk to them. No. So TPR is very important so that you can get the student engaged, get them involved, and it also helps the student understand what you expect of them. For example, how are you? Good, awesome. By cupping my ears using TPR, the student knows what I expect from them. TPR also helps the student ingrain the word in their memory. By having them repeat the word and doing the action at the same time will help them really remember what this word means. So that's one of the most important and key parts of using TPR. This brings me to point number 3. How to use TPR. Well, there's many kinds of ways we can do it. but we're going to discuss two main ways. Number one, giving instruction. We just gave an example. We're going to elaborate more on that. And number two, teaching new vocabulary concepts. Number one is giving instructions. So we don't want our students just to watch us do the actions. We want them to be constantly involved. As I mentioned before, we can use TPR to help the student know when we expect them to answer or repeat a phrase. Let's look at GK Lesson 1 for an example. Here, the student has to repeat the lion or the zebra. So after you read the phrase, you can say, the lion. Very good, good. And you can even ask them questions. Hey, do you like lions? You can also use TPR to instruct the student to stand up or sit down. Also to listen, like, what animal is this? Listen. Or even, hey, okay, let's dance. Using TPR will help the student know right away what you expect of them. Okay, so this brings us to point B, teaching vocabulary concepts. There are endless ways to use TPR to teach new vocabulary to your students, but we are now going to discuss 5 key steps that will help you apply this in your lessons. Number 1, prepare. Select the vocabulary you want to emphasize. Get your props, get your pictures, really think what kind of TPR or visual aids you can use to teach this word. In this case, I'm going to be teaching the verb bike. Number 2, teacher modeling. Say the vocabulary word to your student. And while you do this, really try to use facial expressions, gestures, and actions. Act out the word. In this case, I want to teach my student, let's bike. So I can say, hey, let's bike. Really try to act out the word, make it funny. Maybe you can even crash your bike. Really try to find ways to illustrate the word, ingrain it in their mind. Student modeling. Have the student mimic the action. So let's bike. Come on, let's bike. And as they are doing the action, tell them to repeat the word, let's bike. Good, let's bike. And maybe you can even make it fun and say like, let's bike slowly. Let's bike quickly. That brings us to step number 4, writing.
Okay, so some of those connections like she shared with us about total physical response, and I am a big advocate of total physical response just because it keeps the students engaged and it does help connect their movements to their brain. I always tell my students, you have to see it, you have to say it, and you have to hear it. A lot of times students, when we're working on reading or writing or things that are right in front of them, we see this a lot where they stare at the ceiling and I say to them, are the words up there? I don't see them up there, because they're repeating the words that they're hearing, but they're not focusing on them. And so sometimes our students sit a lot, and so that's why I really enjoy total physical response, because you can take that content and you can make it more physical and more movement added, and then it helps them remember it. Just like when we were earlier doing the C before the I and the E. So of course, some of the advantages, it's fun, especially for the ones who are smaller. It helps for them to remember. It's a good activity for those students who learn best through actions and observations, and for those who prefer to be in motion. So as we all know, many different students learn many different ways. Some can sit and write and hear, and they do well. Others, they need that movement. They need that connection between what they're doing and what they're hearing. It can be used in any size class with any number of students. It's easy to prepare. Hardly any materials are needed. And it focuses on listening, and it allows the students to engage in the language acquisition without being in an environment that is conducive to anxiety. So like we said in a language class, sometimes students are less willing to participate because they're so worried they're going to make a mistake, or they are nervous because they may not know what that answer may completely be. And so with total physical response, it allows all the students to participate, and some of those lower students even to make more of a connection because they're having those conversations, they're using that movement, and they're seeing their friends work with those language words. So we are going to do this a couple ways. We're not going to do this one. Okay. So as I said before, with phonics, sometimes we have to make it a little more interesting for the students to really connect with it. So we are going to do that today with our total physical response. Now, because we're videotaped, you're lucky. I'm not going to make you stand up again. We're going to sit this time. But we are going to do this in two manners. The first one is we are going to put actions to the words of the story of Theo the Thirsty Tiger. The second, if you notice, it says the tune is to Itsy Bitsy Spider. Do you guys know that song? Because the itsy bitsy spider went up the water spout. Down came the rain and washed the spider out. Right. We are going to sing. It's your favorite night, I know. So as we said before, movements help the students retain the memories. One of the reasons why I chose this is because it has that sound that is sometimes difficult for the students to make, because I always tell them it's going to tickle your tongue. So Theo the Thirsty Tiger. And I always tell my students to help them with that sound to over-exaggerate it and really kind of articulate it, because they will. They'll go, Theo, and they'll say, oh, it tickles. And I said, I know, that's good. So we're going to say, Theo the Thirsty Tiger. Oh. So here we go. So you can do it with me. If you'd like, we're going to do it 2 times. So the first time, if you'd like to follow with me, you can. And of course, the second time, I expect everybody to try it the second time. But we're going to say, Theo the Thirsty Tiger thought he saw the water thaw. Right? So by the way, that's a really good word because they don't always know when water melts, it's thaws. Okay? But really, it was thirsty Thelma who the water all. Theo said to thirsty Thelma, think before you drink. 'Cause Theo thought the water could have thawed into a lake. Oh, okay. So we're going to do it one more time with motions. Here we go. Theo, the thirsty tiger, thought he saw the water thaw. Oh, see, even I missed it. Oops, sorry. Good job, everybody. Good job. But really, it was thirsty Thelma who licked the water off. Theo said to thirsty Thelma, think before you drink. 'Cause Theo thought the water could have thawed into a lake. Good job. So before we sing, my favorite part, we're going to talk about some of the things. So of course, there's even good vocabulary within it. Thaw, thought, and as you noticed on the section where we said think before you drink, language students have a hard time with before and after. I don't know why. Because even my students have a hard time, because we'll do things where one comes before what? And they're like, ah. So one of those reasons where we always can add an action to it, is it helps them kind of in their mind. Like we said, it connects them. Okay, before, or, you know, like Sam is before me, like they're in front of me or behind me. So that actually will help out. So now we are gonna sing. Okay, it is okay if you are not the best singer in the whole wide world. It's all right. You know, your 15 minutes of fame will occur sort of kind of now, but yeah. So I know. So here we go. You know what? Before we start, let me just see. I don't know if it'll let me get it bigger where we can see it really good. No, it won't let me. Ay. Go away. There it goes. I know, I don't think it'll let me. I was hoping it would let me make it a little bit bigger, but I don't think it will. Okay. Sorry. So here we go. Okay. And like I said, we're going to sing it 2 times. So the first time, if you're just kind of, that is okay. But I expect it to be bolder the second time. So here we go. Theo, the thirsty tiger, thought he saw the water thaw. But really it was thirsty Thelma who licked the water off. Theo said to thirsty Thelma, think before you drink, 'cause Theo thought the water could have thawed into a lake. Okay, so now I'm going to challenge you. I'm going to see, can you sing and do at the same time? Okay, so ready? Here we go. Theo, the thirsty tiger, thought he saw the water thaw. But really it was thirsty Thelma who licked the water all. It's hard, isn't it? Theo said to thirsty Thelma, think before you drink, 'cause Leo thought the water could have thawed into a lake. Good job. It's a lot harder, by the way. The good thing about that, though, is you're using a lot more mobilities, and it makes it kind of stick into your brain even more. So yes. So like we said, oh, look, now I got it bigger. Ta-da! Of course, that happens when I want it to now. I'm going to make it smaller, so do that. It doesn't like me when I make it zoom in and zoom out. Okay. There we go. All right, so as I said before, and we're not going to read through all of it, I did share with you some more of the posters that you may find helpful for your students. Now, one thing I did want to mention is I know that your wall space is limited. So something that our students do is we have notebooks, spiral notebooks, composition notebooks, and you may do this as well. So I may be telling you something you already know. But we have what we call reference notebooks. We used to call them journals. We don't do that anymore because when they would hear a journal or a diary, then they would think more personal, like I'm gonna write my life, I'm gonna write my thoughts. And that does come in when we're writing, but with our notebooks for our writing and our with our reading and our phonics, we call them our reference notebooks because in the end, students are not there to just sit and get, they're there to help their critical thinking. We are hoping that from what we give them, they will be learners, and they'll be learners for the rest of their lives. Even though it is very easy and simple to look something up on a phone now, it's very important that they still have that process of referencing, because wherever they may go, whatever they may do in their life's journey and their life's path, sooner or later, they're going to have to reference something. So we create journals. See, I did it. We create reference notebooks where we would place the phonics, we would place our reading strategies, we would place some of our read and respond within it, and that way, or our language learning, and that way they could go back and they could look at it. Because another thing that we want to teach them is that someone is not always going to hand the information to you, which a lot of students now think that. They think, well, someone else will tell you and I'll just wait. We don't want them. We want them that whole critical thinking. We want them to solve it for themselves. And so in order to do that, we give them an ability to do it through their notebook. By that way, they can go back and look instead of saying, maestra, or, miss, what is this? What does this mean? Then we say, go look in your notebook. The reason we also do that is because we want the students to find the knowledge for themselves. We want them to be independent. We want them to we want to be the facilitator of their learning rather than the person who's always giving them the information. That way it will lead into more student-centered activities like we were talking about with the way that I do project-based learning in my classroom, which we'll talk about later. But this is why I put those in there, because maybe they'll be useful somehow for you. So we are not going to read through all of them because that would be very boring. Okay, so one of the other ways, and you're not gonna sing along with this, but I know that sometimes you have the ability to have technology and sometimes you do not. So if by chance you have the option of having technology or even giving this link to them and having them look at it at home, this is not a company, but this is a series. It's actually a British series. It's from the BBC. It's called Alpha Blocks. It's free. It's on YouTube. They have many, many different episodes, but one of the reasons why I like it personally, a lot of times the episodes are short. They also use different phonics, like the sneaky E or the silent E, or they put the diphthongs like the sh and the ch. See, I can't even do it now. I'm thinking of Theo and I can't even do Theo's. Theo and the ch sound, but they put it together in a fun way, and then they represent not only the sounds as they say them, but then they'll represent it with pictures. So we're just going to see a very short part of this, and then we'll continue and to move on, just so you can kind of see what it's about. But we're not watching all 30 minutes. The first part of it just happens. And normally they're like maybe 6 minutes.
I can make you go, hey, hey, 'cause I'm Magic E. I can make you go, I can make you go, oh, 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 oh. I can make you go, you. I can make you go, ooh, ooh. 'Cause whenever I'm around, I play a little game. My magic will astound you when I make you say your name. When Magic is around, I can make you make a different sound. If you're wearing a cap, I'll give you a cape. If you've got a leaky tap, I can get you some ape. If you're making a din, I'll invite you to dine. 'Cause whenever I'm around, I can make you make a different sound. If you spill all the slop, it'll slide down the slope. You're going to need a mop, but you better not mope.
We can give you a hug.
But it's going to be
Huge.
'Cause whenever I'm around, I can make you make a different sound.
If you got a little bit, I'll take a little bite. When you're building a kit, I can make you a kite. Give me a can, I'll make you a cane. Show me the plan, I'll make you a plane. 'Cause whenever I'm around, I can make you make a different sound. I can make you go, I can make you go E. Please. I can make you go, ice. I can make you go, oh. Nose. I can make you go, you. Cheers. I can make you go, ooh. Ooh. Whenever I'm around, I play a little game. My magic will astound you when I make you say a name. When magic is around, I can make you make a different sound.
But we one of the reasons, like I said, that we do enjoy this is because, as you notice, they can not only see the words, but they can hear the way that if you put that silent E onto the end, how it changes the word itself. So I know that sometimes you don't always have technology in your classrooms, but this is something that, you know, the dirty word of homework, this is something that you could assign to the students if they had that in their home, and you could even tell them, okay, now go through your home, read, you know, a book or read the newspaper or whatever they may have, and see if you can find sneaky, we call it sneaky E, but if you can find more of those silent E words. So it's just something to keep them engaged in it. And it's very, it gets in your head, by the way. And then, of course, these are some more of the phonics. Okay, so now we're going to test the theory of total physical response at your tables. So what you are going to need to find is the charades page. It has this blue border around it, and you are going to have to take a picture of this one. This is when my computer died. Earlier today, because I knew we were going to be streaming, I was trying to put our pictures of what we were doing up, and my computer did not do that. Yes. I am going to show you the back as well. We are not going to do the back, but the back is another extension of the charades. So on the back, in a few moments when we do charades, we are going to act out the words, hence charades. On the back, though, once the students act out the word, then they have to draw it into the space, and they have to write a sentence with it. Sometimes we'll even do things where we'll challenge them. If they're, before writing a sentence, we may even say, find rhyming words other rhyming words for these words. One reason that we try to put something simple along with the activity or action that they're doing is that we always want to try to incorporate the speaking and the listening and the reading and the writing. And like we said earlier, I know sometimes with your time constraints, that's hard, but it can be as simple as, okay, now we're going to draw out and we're going to write. So there's always a way to add small parts of writing, small parts of listening and speaking, and even reading within your activities and your lessons. So that is why I put this on the back, just so that you could see that. So what we're going to do is you are going to each person is going to choose a word and act out that word. Now, normally when we play this game, I actually have separated it into cards, but I did not do that with this one because of our time. And we would put the cards in, we would have our students be in small groups, and we would put the cards in the middle of the table, and then one student would choose a card, and then of course they would look at the card but not say anything, and then they would try to act the word out. So that's how we usually would play it. So tonight, we're going to start like I said, you can start with whoever you would like, but I would like you to act out the word. And then what your teammates at your table are going to do is, we talked about total physical response. So the is one of the responses. That person who is acting, so for example, okay, I'm going to do one that's famous in Texas, and it is not on there. So we hitch a wagon to our horses. By the way, not every Texan owns a horse. However, we do have a lot. So we hitch our wagon to our horses. Okay? So it means that we connect, of course, the wagon to our horses. So the person who is going to act it out, they're going to do the movements. Once they've done the movements and you have decided what the word is and figured it out, because they're not going to tell you, you have to figure it out, then you're going to separate into syllables. So that's not word for word, but you're going to say the word. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your hand, and so the word is hitch. So you're going to go hitch, and then you're going to go hitch, hitch. Okay? So your arm is the word, the whole word, and then each part of your arm will be syllables. So in this case, there's 2. So once again, the person's going to act it out, so they're acting it out. Okay? And everyone's like, oh, it's hitch. So then you as the group, okay, we're going to go hitch, hitch, hitch. Okay? And then you can even, if you want, do I did. But that's just another form of memorying to put it into their memory. So we're going to just take a few moments to do that. So one person will start at the table, choose a word, act it out. The others at the table will try to guess the word. And then remember, you're going to say the complete word and then separate in syllables and repeat the word. Okay, go ahead. Who's going to start? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's different because of the TCH is actually considered that one kind of final. So when you do it, if you watch when you say it, so you go wit. So you can wit. When you change it. Wit. Sometimes they'll even say it, like especially with that ch sound. If they'll say you'll say watch your mouth, because you'll say wit. So wit. So that wit and that TCH, that's considered that one syllable sound. And that's one of the reasons why we do that, because that one, that's difficult. Yeah. Yeah. Because you think, is it what? But it's not, it's wit. So wit. And it has, because everyone kind of wants to emphasize this. So wit. In match. Yep. Yep. So they have meh and then ch. And sometimes we even clap it out. So sometimes if it's like, if you find their students are having a hard time to try it like the arm, then we'll say match, which. And then we're like, okay, if you hear which, you hit that ch is that other second syllable. But it's a difficult sound. That's why we're doing it. Yeah. Yeah, and we were just talking about that too, about where the syllable is. Right. Like the MA, like ma, MA, yeah, like ma, me. In English they don't. Well, it's when you separate it, that TCH is considered a separate sound. So we have which, match. that TC. It's a difficult word because even though we hear like which when we say it, that TCH is considered a separate kind of phoneme sound. So that's why we have those which, match, what else is like it, because that TCH is together. And the reason when we separate it like that is because of their writing. When we write it, because like if we tell them itch, we can't say it, and so we try to say it, but they can't hear that T all the time. And so that's why it's kind of a memorized spot. Like that's why we separate it the way we do. So, but yeah, I know it's a different, yeah, of course. Yeah. Stitch. Okay, so it'd be stitch. Actually, it would be 3 because it's stitch. So this is in the front. The blend of stitch. Stitch. Yeah. I know, right? So as we were all doing the charades, one of the reasons why I chose these words is they are a little harder. The TCH sound is actually considered a syllable sound. Okay, so for example, we were just talking about stitch. Okay, so when we talk about stitch, it actually has 3 syllables because you have the blend of st in the front, you have the I or the I sound, and then the TCH, the I can't even say stitch. So one of the reasons why we spend a little more time on these words is because that T sound, you don't really hear it all the time once it's within the word. So for example, if I say quickly, stitch, I don't hear the tch, I hear st, and I hear the I and the ch, but I don't hear that T in that area. So we focus on those because that TCH, when it's together, it's harder to hear. It's a harder sound to hear. Just like we were talking about match, because, like we said, when you separated in syllabus in Spanish, a lot of times the students would try to go like ma, me, me, mo, mu, and they'll go ma, and then ch, match. And so that TCH is considered a solid syllable sound. So that is one reason why I chose those. They're a little harder. Oh. Oops. Okay. And speaking of harder sounds, these also can be a little more difficult. So this is also why I put these in the PowerPoint, like that hard G and the soft G and that hard C and the soft C. So when we talk about G says the hard sound, like in gorilla, when it comes before A, O, U, L, and R, Gus the gorilla gave Glenn gum, which by the way is alliteration. And that's fun with older students to try to see if they can figure out a way to create that. Sorry, I have to get away from the air. It's blowing on my mic. The gentle giraffe went to the gym. So the C says hard sound, like in cupcake, when it comes before A-O-U-L-R. Carl likes creamy cupcakes and candy. C says the soft sounds, like in city, when it comes before E, I, and Y. So all of these I shared them with you because those are very hard when we're pronouncing in English to know which is which and what is what. So we're gonna do that. Okay. You're not gonna watch this one right now. And then we were just talking about the TCH or the CH. So that sh can be spelled 2 ways. Use TCH at the end of a word after a short vowel. Catch, a witch. use CH at the beginning of a word after a consonant and after two vowels. The teacher had chicken for lunch. So I also gave these to you because, like I said, it's always good to reference them and those. And I know you're going to go home looking at some words and be like, oh my goodness. Okay. The second game, actually, hold on. We are going to play a game. So the next sound we're going to work with is our other favorite sound, that ending ED sound. Okay? So the three sounds of ED, which sound do I use? The id or the d? So like started, because sometimes our students will say stopped, like stopped the tape, or you know, they'll say he needed to stop it hitting me, and I'm like, okay. So those are sounds those are just, they have to be taught. Like any student, no matter where they are, as they're learning another language with the ED sound, it's always harder for them. So one of the ways, of course, we help them with those sounds is working with the words, working with the sounds, both in song, my favorite, and in sorting. So we're actually going to do that right now, if it lets me. Okay. So this is another, like I said, this is another way to kind of, it's a wrap, yeah, to get to the spelling of the ED. We're just going to listen to it first, and then we're actually going to use there's a sort in your activity that we're going to look at. So we're just going to listen to it and see how they put it together with that ED, that suffix.
Learn about the suffix ED with me. Add it to verbs and you will see. It marks past tense in case you asked. It means the action happened in the past. Learn about the suffix ED with me. Add it to verbs and you will see. It marks past tense in case you asked. It means the action happened in the past. Rule 1, it's easy, just add ED. Kick, kicked, pick, picked. Walk, walked, talk, talked. If a one-syllable word ends CVC, double the last letter and add ED. Hop, hopped, stop, stopped, skip, skipped, trip, tripped. Rule 3, if it ends in E, just add the D. Wave, waved, save, saved. Joke, joked, poke, poked. Learn about the suffix ED with me. Add it to verbs and you will see. It marks past tense in case you asked. It means the action happened in the past. Rule 4, if it ends with a consonant followed by a Y, change the Y into an I and add ED. Try, tried, spy, spied, cry, cried, dry, dry. If the final syllable of a word isn't stressed, don't double any letters, add ED instead. Open, opened, listen, listened, visit, visited, ripen, ripened. Sometimes the rules do not make sense, as some words have irregular past tense. Grow, grew, fly, flew, sing, sang, ring, rang. Learn about the suffix ED with me. Learn about the suffix ED with me. Learn about the suffix ED with me. Add it to verbs and
so as you notice within that song, they are using what we've talked about, that total. Let's see if this will work with me now. The total physical response. Okay. So what we're going to do now, if I can get back to where I was. Nope, here, that's what I want. Okay. Inside of your envelope is a sort. We're not going to sort the words. We're actually going to do this a little differently. So one of the reasons why I placed this inside of the envelope is because we've talked about that ED, okay? And that ending, that suffix of the ED sound, how it has those 3 different ones. Now, with your students, no matter what you have, whether it is a chalkboard, whether you pass out cards and you have them make a match. So we've done this 2 different ways, and today we're going to do this one of the ways that we will in our class. So earlier this evening, I talked to you about making American Sign Language, and we will use that with these, okay? So when the ED has the ending sound of t, we're going to make the T. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your hand, and you're going to take your thumb, and you're actually going to, when you make a fist, you're going to place your thumb right between your pointer finger and your next one. And that is actually the letter T in hablas de señas, in sign language, in American Sign Language. And then we're going to create the letter of the id. Okay, so you're going to id, like, okay. So D. And then we're going to do that D. Okay, the D sound. So, for example, if you hear the word landed, what do you hear? What's that suffix, that ending sound that you hear? Do you hear that, the D? What do you hear? Landed. Yeah, it had that D, okay? So, if we hear the word yelled, what do you hear? Yeah, you hear that D, okay? So if we hear the word crashed, that's okay. So as we're working with them, like brushed, what do you hear? That, okay. So the reason why we're doing this is, granted, you can make it a sort throughout with your classes, with your students, but using motions such as what we just did is also a good indicator of what we call a non-formal assessment. It's assessing the student's knowledge of, can they hear the sounds at that end? Can they hear that it's crashed? Can they create that themselves? And one of the reasons why we do that is that it is a good indicator of how their level of reading. Sometimes when they can't hear those ending sounds, it means that they're going to have a little more trouble as they are reading. And so you can that's something that you can work on, or that you can see, okay, I need to work on that with them a little bit longer. So that is one of the ways that we use these. So, okay. Okay. Okay, so one thing about our phonics and our differences of Spanish and English that we always need to realize is that even though our phonics is based on rules that recognize both sound and spelling patterns, it's always important to find a way to incorporate application of that process. And when we say application, it's exactly what it sounds like. How can we put it into reading? How can we put it into our writing? How can the students apply that knowledge that they're learning, especially with phonics? Because as you know, phonics and phonemic awareness is more complex in English. They need that access to seeing the patterns, both in isolation, but also within their reading, within their writing. And it, of course, they all lead in one to another. Okay. Cecilia, do we want to do a break now and then come back? How do you want to do that? Would you like a break? Un café. Yeah, where do I need to look? To know what time to come? Okay. So yes, so we're gonna take a break for about 15 minutes, and so we'll come back. It's 8:08, but I know you do military time. So 22 past, yes. So you passed 8, yes. I know I have to think of it. I'm not used to that. So I should be. Yes, I know, that's true. Let's be realistic. You're correct. Can't take it off. Can I take it off? I know. I feel like Taylor Swift right now. I'm just gonna start singing. Shake it off, shake it off. Ooh, ooh. Yeah, there you go. Or the uh-huh. Oh yeah. They stop to listen. I know. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Well, and I like it too because it was doing the all the together and but that's something too that's fun because you can even have your students do a rap and it's fun to see what they come up with. Oh. Yes, yes. It's your birthday? Feliz cumpleaños. So, if it's your birthday, so in Argentina, do they sing any special songs for your birthday? Yeah. So in Mexico, they do Las Mañanitas. Yeah, but I wondered if it was similar or different or you know. They sing Happy Birthday. Ah, see, so it's the same. He's like, oh. She's like, no, no, it's not my birthday. No. Where am I staying? At the Hotel Salta on the in the centro. I know, I love it because I can explore all different directions. Yes, yes. I really enjoy it. Yeah, I know. I know. I'm there a little bit of time, and so I started asking the ladies who were there, "What's your name? ¿Cómo se llama?" ¿Cómo se llama? No. Okay. Okay, so before we end, we are going to play. Actually, let me see what time it is before I say that. Okay. We are going to play one more game inside. This is going to be a little harder, though, I think, for the people who are on the other end. So I might have to hold the cards up for them because we're streaming, right? So they can, okay. I had to think about that. Okay. Sorry, I'm thinking how I want to do it so that everybody can participate in it. Okay, we're gonna hold this. We're gonna save this game for a moment. So inside of your envelope, or possibly in the middle of your table, because you've looked at all the goodies, there is a poem called Nature Treasure Hunt. Nature Treasure Hunt. So throughout this tonight, we've been discussing, of course, the differences between English and Spanish, but kind of focusing in on some of those, the differences of English and Spanish through different phonics sounds and also through some of course, of the words that we have. So nature hunt is one of those things. So we also have talked about sorry, I lost my track. The total physical response. So if you can find that at your table, do you have that? It's called Nature's. Oh, it might be that actually, right? Nope. One moment. That might be sticking together. Well, I thought it was in every one, but I will give you this one. here you go. No, it's okay, because I have another, but I thought I'm glad that you saw that it was not there, so I thought everybody had one. Okay, let me go to... Okay, so we were discussing, of course, the differences between Spanish and English, but this poem is actually a good example of how sometimes our students can get a little confused on language because, of course, if you read the title, it said Nature's Treasure Hunt. So we always talk to the students about, before we do anything, is, well, what do you think that means? And a lot of times students, they see treasure and they will think, oh, it's diamonds and gold and gems. And we say, well, that is one meaning behind it. And then we discuss, well, what are some other meanings you may think? And we'll have them try to speak and to talk out things like, we'll say sayings, you know, like, I treasure you. You know, well, what is I treasure you? What does that mean? Does that mean you're full of gold? You know, what is that? What does that mean? And so they'll think about it and they'll talk about, well, when you treasure something, you hold it close to your heart, or it's worth a lot to you. And so we'll talk about, well, yeah, and that is why sometimes when we have certain sayings or idioms that we use those words interchangeably, because the language itself, the way that different people use that language. So tonight, one of the ways that we use this poem is, of course, through the language that it has in it, such as treasure. There's really not a lot within the language itself that's really difficult. Sometimes there are a few, like the last stanza with a creek flowing fast, then making a blast. So then we, of course, talk about, well, what is that? Those multiple meaning words. What does blast mean? What are some things that blast stand for? And they'll, you know, they may say, oh, blast, like there's an explosion and there was a blast, or I went to a party and my friend and I had a very good time. It was a blast. And those idioms are very difficult because they don't translate. So, for example, I came to school one day and I was losing my voice, and my friend and my students said, oh, you're losing your voice. What's happening? And I said, I have a frog in my throat. And they're like, oh, you have a frog in your throat? And they go, ew. And I said, no, I don't really have a frog. I can't even say it, in my throat. And they said, well, but that's what you said, because our students, as they learn the language, are very literal. And I said, no. I said, it's because my voice, when you listen to it, it's very croaky, and it has that rough sound like a frog when, you know, they're croaking at nighttime in a lake or whatnot. And they're like, oh, well, that's just okay. And so, because it happens when we talk about something that's very simple or easy, we'll say 1, 2, 3, it's lemon squeezy. And they're like, what? And they'll say, oh, it's a piece of cake. And some of our students coming in are like, we're gonna eat cake? What? And so we try to find, once again, that's whole differences between Spanish and English. Because I know there's sayings like, when it's raining cats and dogs, I can't remember it, but I know there's a saying that means it's similar, I believe, in Spanish in Mexico. Yeah, but it's not, it's like something like like if you were to translate it, it's like your hair is growing. What is it? I think, yeah. And but it doesn't mean the same, right? So it's not raining cats and dogs, but it's this. And so we have actually books, and we'll talk to the students about it. But that's one of those differences in English and Spanish, because like those dichos, right? Like those sayings and things. And so that's one of those, to me, they're really fun, because I don't know, because my background is not in Spanish. Like, I'm not a Spanish speaker. My mom is Italian. And so I said, so when they told me what that was, I was like, wait, what? And they're like, no, it's like, when it rains really heavy, and I'm like, oh, it's raining cats and dogs. And they're like, what? Yeah, so it's really fun when we talk to each other and we work each other's that out. But one of the other reasons besides that we use some of the songs is we also use them for those phonics skills, like rhyming those words. So looking at the words, where I searched for treasure on a nature hike, here are some things I found. Beautiful flowers fed by rain showers, and green plants all around. Birds singing in trees, squirrels climbing with ease, and deer tracks on the ground. By the way, I found out that you do not have deer in Argentina. Like cervos, like deer. So do you have deer here or not? Ah, okay. Like, is it an antelope? Yes, yeah. Australia, okay. Because someone a couple nights ago was like, deer? What is a deer? And I was like, oh. A creek flowing fast, then making a blast with a waterfall of sound. So tonight, before we end, we're gonna take this poem and we are gonna put it into motion. Okay. So, you guys ready? We're going to. I searched for treasure. So we're gonna kind of, because they always think it's something rich, right? I searched for treasure on a nature hike. Okay. Here are some things I found. Beautiful flowers fed by rain showers. And it's interesting, because if you ever watch students do this, sometimes they'll be like, fed, because like they think you're eating, because when like a baby is fed their milk, so then we're like, oh no, it's not that, it's rain showers, and because they're that. And green plants all around. Birds, so we'll always do birds like this. Birds singing in trees, because es una habla de seña, it's trees. Squirrels climbing with ease. So we're gonna be like, oh, because that was so easy. Okay. And deer tracks on the ground. A creek flowing fast. Good job. Then making a blast with a waterfall of sound. Good job. So even working through some of it, you'll notice, like we said, the fed by rain showers, the squirrels climbing with ease. Sometimes I'm like, what's ease? They get it confused with eaves on the side of a building. So the little, like the gutter edge, they'll say, oh, eve. I'm like, eaves. So like it's easy. And then the tracks on the ground in a creek, where we are, we have a lot of like rios, right? And streams, but we don't always have a lot of creeks. Don't always realize that it's like almost the same as the stream. So using something as simple as a poem can allow you to do many different activities with words and with the wording. And one of the reasons that we like our poems, or to use poems, they're very easy to add TPR to total physical response to, but also all the students, even if they don't understand everything in there, they can usually read it with confidence. And that's really what we're trying to inscribe in them, is that we want them to be confident in where they're going with their language and even making mistakes in their language. And that is a good platform for them, because then once they realize they're confident and comfortable in the classroom, then they're willing to do more and to try more. So tonight, before we leave, what I will ask you to do is, can I borrow this one more time? I had one and I don't know where I put it. Okay, so on the very front of the pages that you have for the last part of tonight, which it's, I believe, about, I'd say 15 minutes. This is simply for you. There are different boxes that say key points, like things you really liked or that you really wanted to remember. Aha moments that are like, oh, wow, you know, I do that, or, oh, that's a new way that I could do that. Game ideas for your class, concepts you could use during your class, and then questions that you may have. This is just for you so that you can remember kind of what we talked about tonight. And then later on, it may help you later on when you have to take a test, by the way. But this is for you just personally to help kind of seal, okay, this is what I learned. This is what we were doing tonight. These are some of the objectives. These are some of the games that we did or I liked or how I could use them in my classroom. And one of the reasons that we are doing this as well is this is another strategy we use with our students before we or they would have to leave our class, to help kind of bring everything together for that day. So in our classes, we call them review and reflect. Sometimes we call them exit tickets, where they're just small information that they have to share with us about the objective that they learned or something they found interesting, just to kind of bring that whole day to, or that whole time, not that whole day, but that whole time together. And then plus when we look at it, we can say, oh, you know, they understood this, or they still have questions about this, or we need to focus a little more on this the next time we meet. So this is just for you to reflect about tonight. And once you've completed it and written some of it down, then we're done for tonight. And then we'll pick up tomorrow. Okay, so I know that some of you are still kind of writing down your thoughts, but we're gonna go ahead and close for tonight. And so the things that are on your table, if you'll just place them all together, no putting in your backpack and your purse, I know it's supposed to be in those envelopes. And we will get to more of them actually tomorrow. So I really appreciate you guys taking the time to come and to learn and to listen. And I've really appreciated your feedback tonight as well. And so I will see you tomorrow. Tomorrow, our focus will be on listening and speaking. And so be ready to play games and to volunteer, and not be voluntold. Exactly.
Okay, and to those who are online, thank you so much for having taken the time. I know it's a little hard when you are online because it's simply harder, yes, but thank you, and we'll be meeting again, same time, same place tomorrow. Thank you. Same channel.
They all say same back channel. Thank you.